the background of women in the African space. Because the current feminism as we have it, it is a revolution rather than a lifestyle. It is a pushback from the patriarchal masculine energy. It's a response. It is a feedback of what the colonial system and religious system has allocated women to be. And I will always fall back and say the Bible is our first problem because it presents women as an afterthought. God created man and what. Then man was walking around and he was lonely. And God said, oops, let me try and make a woman for him so that he can support him. We don't find in the biblical text the presence of women becoming an intentional creation of God. And worse, when you begin to go through the Bible, you would then find that the Abrahamic faiths, that Islam, Judaism, and Christianity, have a fundamental problem with women because all of them are not easy when it comes to women in the same room. So Eve appears in the Bible as the one who spoke with the snake, and this is the reason we fell into sin. And almost 60, if not 80% of the women that you find in the Bible, they are labeled as prostitutes, as harlots, as problem makers. I mean, from as early as Eve, you go to Sarai, you go to Hagar, by the time you bump on Rahab, you bump on Mary Magdalene, you bump on, it's Tamar and the rest of it. And it makes them footnotes in terms of the narrative, particularly on the Abrahamic faith's platform. So the present day woman has to find herself dealing with Islam, for example, that says when a good Muslim dies and he gets to heaven, oh wow, Allah will give you seven virgins. So even the concept of heaven itself, it is populated with the immorality of men and heaven becoming a reward. And how does God reward men? He rewards them with women. And so the question again, you need to ask Allah and ask God, what was the plan initially for women? Are they just there to be escorting men into their fantasies of sexual reproduction? Or as human beings, they have an intrinsic place to play. And I hope in the midst of this introduction, we will be able later on to begin to delve into the African form and sense of what women are like, were like, should be like, and their role in the community. But on an onset, my response to present feminism and feminine organization, it is that they are bringing what I might call toxic femininity, where it is the woman's individuality surviving, living away from men. As such, the main drivers of that agenda become single, divorced women who have had a bad share with men, so to speak. So they think that the opposite of this should be feminism. I'm not here to promote feminism. I'm not here to promote masculinity. I'm here to talk about how men and women can live together in harmony. Because men by themselves cannot reproduce themselves. Women by themselves cannot reproduce themselves. It is a combination of the two. So even the girl child story, as it is being promoted, that we need more women there, take the girl child, beautiful idea, because they are fixing the inequalities of the past. But if you spend 10 generations doing that, or even 2 generations, pumping this idea of women going on top, very nice. The women are now on top. Where are the husbands they must marry? They're back on the ground level. So we must come back again and now do the boy child to lift them up, to match up with the man. So it becomes a vicious cycle of repetition. For me, it takes 1 generation to bring up the boy child and the girl child in equality so that they grow together. They reach the same attainment of education and realization. They marry each other and they could create a new society by themselves. But this whole far left idea of feminism coming in as a direct challenge of promoting women above men, you're again going to be creating inequality which is unintentional. And some of the women say, we don't care. It has been happening with the men for the longest of time. It's our time now also to get on top and what and what. But you're creating a problem for the next generation. The best way of doing and dealing with feminism is to balance it up with masculinity. And boys and girls, men and women, husbands and wives must grow up, must live, must execute, must be respected, must work in an environment that respects both of them. So this speaks of policy, that you cannot employ a woman as a manager, you employ a man as a manager, and the woman receives less salary than the man. Then again, there's disparity right there. And when some women assume corporate responsibilities and opportunities, they become worse than the men. Because you as a woman now being an HR director in an organization, why would you still uphold masculine policies? A woman must go on maternity leave for 3 months. And you know it very well as a mother that you don't need 3 months. You need 6. You need 1 year. Sweden has just passed on a beautiful policy where a woman gets 6 months, the husband gets 6 months. So at least for that 1 year when the child is born, the father has a maternity leave, the mother has a maternity leave. In the absence of one parent, the other one is available. These are the kind of policies that we need to start looking at and transforming them so that even the workplace can become user-friendly for the women. We understand fully well women have more problems and challenges than the men. When she goes through a cycle, when she is pregnant, and the kind of work that she can do, this equality does not mean sameness. I hope someone can get it clear there. Women can do what men can do, yes, verbally speaking, but there are things that men can do, there are things that women can do. And to put both of them on a tower to be fixing electricity on top of a thing, because I'm a woman, I can also climb the poles and I can also do what a man is doing. Yes, it's okay. You can do it in your youth and etc. But as we look at it in a holistic way, I don't think it is. We're matching physical structure with our emotionalism around feminism. So feminism must come with a sense of equality rather than a sense of superiority. And we can find ourselves in an equitable environment where there's mutual respect between men and women. And again, we must understand that cultures vary around the African continent. There are tribes in Africa where women choose their own husbands. And there are cultures in Africa where men don't own women. Women are free to choose their husbands, and children belong to the woman. The Eritrea and Ethiopia, even if you marry a woman, she does not change her surname. She maintains her own identity. But in the deeper south, where we are coming from, you will find that women actually are the ones who install the kings. It is a woman's business. The Rahadi, the aunties, the sisters of the husband or the sisters of the men are critical in terms of them driving the agenda even of royalty. And homes were run by women because men were at war. Men were in the bushes hunting, and sometimes they would come, sometimes they would not come back from war. So the whole estate of the African, particularly in the South, is centered around women. And women have that space, I might even step back a little bit, as the center of welfare, wealth, and procreation for the whole family as represented in a kraal. And the kraal, that's where the cattle sleep, which is around wood or stone. And it is here that the ancestors are buried to be looking after the wealth of their own family. And as such, when you marry a young lady, you don't marry her to your house. You bring her to the kraal. She comes and she is born from here. Because before she arrived here, the parents where she's coming from, they took her to her own kraal at her mother's place. And then they told the ancestors there that we are now removing her from here. She no longer has a name from here. Her inheritance will be together with the place where these cows, remember we do dowry, where these cows have come from. So they strip her of her name, they strip her of everything. She remains nameless. By the time they walk up in the morning to the house of the family where she's going to get married, they must make an announcement. We have come from the family of so and so. We have brought your thing. Take note of that word. we've brought with you. She's nameless. She's basically a blank check that we're bringing with you. The family opens up their gates and they will walk with her to the kraal. When they get to the kraal, they tell their ancestors in the kraal, those cows that left here and went here, they have come back. And then again, take note, we are not commodifying women. I want us maybe to dip into that. We have brought, those cows have come here into the kraal. So there are two types of women you find, the woman who is born from the family and the woman who is born from the kraal. The one who is born from the kraal is a gift from the ancestors, for she comes to reproduce us. The one born from the family, she will go away and build another family where she's going. So a woman is a gift from the ancestral world in the African space. And remember when she was young, in her own mother's place, when she started doing her periods, then the family tells her, go to the kraal and go and get some cow dung. Then she goes there by herself, collects fresh cow dung, comes back to the house, and then cleans up the floor with mixing the cow dung with her blood. As it were to say, the wealth of the family, the security of the family, the history of this family is now mixed together with me. She begins to understand the value of the kraal. Hence in Zulu, when they even talk about the female genitalia, they call it inkomo, which means the cow. And you cannot tamper with my genitalia because you're tampering with my father's cows. You're tampering with the wealth of the family. And it is through this understanding that she comes in. She's born as a girl. She comes in as a maiden. She is oriented into the family by the aunties of the family. She becomes a mother. She becomes a wife. A few years later, she becomes the grandmother, the grand matriarch, who now sits with the history and the archive of the entire family, knowing how all these children were born and where they come from. She becomes a custodian. And then when you find her in her round heart, she's the high priest of the whole family, the one who is not coming from amongst us, but the one with us and the one who gave birth to all of us. She's the one who represents us. So even in the what they call Umsamo, in the Zulu and Nguni spaces, we enter into that room. The priest in that room is the grand matriarch. The men will be sitting on the left, and the women will be sitting on the right. And right on the top front, that's what the grand matriarch is, the library of the whole family. And you cannot do anything in this household without consulting that grand matriarch. Therefore, women in African culture, deep in our African culture before colonization, women did not marry the men. They married the estate. You don't marry the men, you marry the entire estate. Because all of this will become your responsibility as a woman. How people are going to be married in this house, how the affairs of this home are going to be run. As such, the female species, the women, occupied not only a spiritual role of the family, but they actually even occupy the commercial functions of the family. Because for cows to leave this house means the boys have gotten someone pregnant, someone has killed someone, and the cows must be going. And she is the custodian. Through moral education of her children, she's able to preserve her own kraal. And as such, women will be involved in educating the young girls on terms of the beadwork, which is a book that will be coming up very shortly, which I'm working on, the cycle of life through the functions of the beads, how to show the young girl how to manage her cycle of periods from 7 days of bleeding, 7 days of drying up, 7 days of ovulation, 7 days of fertility, the 28 beads around her waistline in various colors, the green, the red, the orange, the white, and the green. And then that becomes our week, our month, the 28 days. We're back to the Ethiopian calendar, away from the Gregorian calendar that is 31 days. And with that calendar again, we're back to our 4 seasons, summer, autumn, winter, spring, a center of knowledge. There you are. So the woman actually contained and held together the entire knowledge, cosmology, knowledge, wealth, knowledge, spirituality, knowledge, education, wisdom, sharing with the next generation. And therefore, you look at the commercialization of lobola, being, I paid so many cows, totally wrong. In the previous time, no boy would pay for cows for his wife. It is the father of the house who would then, with the grandmother, wife, pick up their cows and go and fetch a wife for you and bring it to you. Therefore, you cannot divorce that which you never paid for. So even if you wanted to get another wife and etc., this one that came in as the first wife through the crawl, she becomes the queen of the house. You can have other small little houses for your other wives and etc. But the role of women was integral, both for wars, both for cleansing, both for spirituality, agriculture, gathering of food. And my grandmother, I still remember, she brought me up. She would get to the bush there, and while she's walking around, pick up some herbs, pick up some other things, and put it in her, and a small little cloth there when she's cooking, and put it on. She was a hospital. Woman was a full hospital. This was a maternity ward. I was born in my grandmother's hut behind the door there. And my grandmother is the one who welcomed me into this world. I've just managed to finish building that roundabout as a commemoration center, exactly my landing strip when I arrived in this world where I arrived. And I hope one day when I go, I want to go away from the same room. But the women were our hospitals, our centers of strength, the protectors of our wealth base, and they were the sources of wisdom, education. These even DNA tests. When a child is born, the grandmothers will be sitting and aunties, and they go through the nails, they check the ears, and you wonder, these Africans doing this? No, don't undermine the grandmother. She slept with the grandfather. She changed diapers of the father. Now here is the grandchild. So how can I fail to see any similarities between my husband, who is your grandfather, my son, who is your father, and now you bring up a grandchild, and they can be able to look and compare notes, and they share these notes in the house, and they can make a noise, this is ours. If it is not ours, they would whisper to each other, and then tell the young maiden, oh, please, when you are feeding this child, do it from behind the house. Don't call surnames that we don't know. And so it was an intricate center of knowledge sharing. So if you should be asking the role of women, that's why you find in Swaziland, KwaZulu-Natal, and many kingdoms in the south, a king does not rule as a king if the queen mother is not there. So it is always the king and his mother, the king and his sister, Rakadi. And this, for me, creates the balance of power between feminine and masculine, even within our royalties. The women are not just women. Women are the center through which, if you have to use the biblical narrative, they are the center through which humanity comes into existence. That's why we still refer to the land as feminine, Mother Africa. The land is feminine, it's not masculine. And if the concept of the Bible is right, that God went into the ground to extract men, then maybe my concept is right, that the wife of God is land, because then God went into the ground to extract men. Therefore, the land itself is similar to women, because this is the fertile ground from where humanity lives. And if any man wants to see himself, then the only way a man can see himself is through a woman, because the woman will give birth to him. The woman will reproduce you. Therefore, to all the men out there, the woman that you sleep with is not your wife. The woman you sleep with is your mother, because she is able to reproduce you after your own kind. How then can women of the modern day become powerful? Women cannot become powerful until women have access to land, access to estate, access to property. Because if you want your boyfriend to make you pregnant, he must make you pregnant on his land, so that the children that you give birth to can inherit what was in him is now in you. It goes back into the ground. So the whole concept of loving a man more than loving his estate is misplaced hegemony, because then love affairs become at a personal level instead of becoming at an estate. Women build empires. Women build homes. Women build communities. And we cannot be talking about women empowerment if women don't have access to the very basic resource that gives them power. And that resource is estate. And the estate is that of land. And without land, you can never be a powerful woman in a building, in a flat, in a somewhere. Because if nothing that you're going to be living for, the day you lose your job, you lose the house, you lose the cars, and the children are back on the street. It is the ability of understanding the word umfazi. Umfazi. That's Zulu. Umfazi. Umfa ekwazi. Wazi, knowing. Umfa, the one who dies. Umfazi, the one who decides where she's going to die. She has knowledge of what she's going to build, and she will die there. And therefore, when a woman wants to become powerful, you have to make that decision. Where am I going to die? And I'm going to die building what? What estate? What legacy am I going to build? Hence, when you even read throughout the entire Jewish history, which I studied for the longest of time, there's no particular man in the Bible mentioned who became powerful except that it was for their mother who did that. Hence, the whole story of Jesus centers on Mary. You may even struggle to find Joseph in the whole New Testament, except at conception. Hey, Joseph, please, your wife is like this, like this. The rest of it, even at the death of the son, he is not there. Nowhere to be found. Even at the Eve talking to the snake, where was Adam? He was disappearing into the act. So women have actually been centers of transformation, even if you had to use that philosophical narrative of the Bible, centers of change and transformation. The trajectory of human living is found itself into the hands of women. Was it not of Mary, where would we be? What is not of Eve, where would we be? And what is not of Winnie Mandela, where would South Africa be? List goes on. And all these men that you're seeing walking around today, they didn't fall from the skies. They come between women, and women are the official door into this life. And the pillars of their legs give us the first official face of God. And the face of God is the face of the mother. She's the one who will tell you who is your father. She's the one who will tell you what is around you. And all these men breastfed on their mother's breasts. The question is, when they were breastfeeding, what were you telling them? Because after they finished breastfeeding, what do they become? Hence, I always become weary at a more naughty space when I find modern day women calling their husbands, hi babes, and then they call their children, hi papa, and then they give their children plastic milk and their husbands are breastfeeding at night. The question is, who needs the breast milk? Is it the husband or is it the children? And maybe because these children are growing up with plastics in their mouths rather than holding their mother's breasts, they've become so impersonal, because through the process of breastfeeding, you are able to deal even with the issues of gender-based violence, because it is here that the fragility of women works into the masculinity of men to remind them who they are. Walk around the town today, ask out of the 10 people you're going to meet, those who don't have their teeth, ask them how they lost them. They said something about someone's mother. Mention my mother while you are talking to me and curse and swear at her. The rest is history. Why? Because inside every man's heart, the first wife, first woman that I know is my mother. And that's irreplaceable. And I believe that if women were in positions of leadership, we'll have less wars, because women are more loving, they're more caring, they're more protecting, less militant, but more constructive. So the restoration of women for me, not only on land, but also on cultural ethics and morality and good and wisdom, and giving them that space of, in Zulu, they even call them Ndlovukazi, which means the royal, the female royal, as it were. And when you find a man sitting on his chair as a king, he is not bigger than the one who is sitting on a smaller chair, because the one on the smaller chair is closer to the ground, and what is in here will sit on the chair. So the king is not actually a king. He's keeping the chair for what the woman is carrying. The man is a servant, and I would say this loudly from the Hebrew mindset. The man is a servant. And if women can hear me this, please play this tape twice if you miss it. Play it again. There is no single man in the face of the earth, on the face of the earth, who is not happy to work for a woman, to provide for her, to look. It is intrinsically built in a man Even a man gets lots of money and he has everything. Tell me one of the first things that comes to his mind. Where does he want to go? Get me a woman, please. Get me a woman somewhere. Let me have some woman sit next to me, and where we can enjoy this thing together. It's undeniable that within the male species, their mothers have played that role. We can just replace them with our wives, but ultimately, men would live to make sure that the world of women is secure. And why must that world be secure? Because that's where the children are. And if a man cannot look after a woman, if a man cannot look after his mother, a man cannot look after land. Hence, I always say in all my videos, every man must have 2 wives, because 1 wife is not good enough. The first wife is land, and the second wife is the one who makes children for you. And if you cannot make the land pregnant, it's illegal for you to make a woman pregnant. Because when you make a woman pregnant and you don't have land, what are they going to eat? What are they going to drink? Therefore, we must teach our young men to love the land more and fight for the land more than fighting for women. Because the real inheritance that we have is the source of production. What is the role of man? The role of man is to pick up sticks and stand around the land to protect it. It is the role of women to make sure that our children inherit what she is carrying. So the role of man is to be a partner to the woman and protect the estate from other predators that can destroy the inheritance for the children. Because women may not be too strong to look after this estate. It is a duty of a man to walk around with a knob carry and a stick to make sure any thug or animal or human being who wants to tamper with the African continent and land should be kept away from our land as far as possible. Because when we lose this piece of land, we no longer have a reason to reproduce children into the zone of poverty. So men are there as protectors, not of themselves, but protectors of women, particularly the vulnerable, the children, the women, and the disabled. It's the responsibility of every man to carry a knob carry and put it on the head of anyone who wants to tamper around with our estate. We've already passed that bus stop because in the midst of colonization and disenfranchising of the African men, the conversion of kings into employees, the creation of the colonial system into labor, into workers, destroyed the very core which kept the families together. And hence, even if you look at all the wars in Africa, we're not fighting for democracy, madam. We're fighting for land. That's all. Full stop. We didn't go to war to come back with a book called Democracy. We went to war because we wanted land. And it's amazing that even after independence, we still don't have land in our hands. So it went wrong when people lost, number 1, their identity. 2, the estate and the community that gave them identity. Now we're living in towns as neighbors. Even if I can ask you right now, who lives across the road? Who lives that side? Who lives that side? Who lives on the east and who lives on the west? You'll be lucky if you can identify 2 of your neighbors. Even if you meet each other in the shops, you pass each other. The only day you know your neighbors is when there's a funeral here. And then the neighbors would also say, we see lots of cars there. What has happened? No, someone has passed away. In some cases, people have introduced each other during funerals like that. So we have lost sense of community, sense of camaraderie, where when there's a wedding and, of olden days, people pick up a kudu horn, in the whole community, and we know that there is beer that has been cooked on that side. Or we are being called to come to the palace to go and plow. Or it's a call to go for war. Or it's a call to go for harvesting, and etc. And when these horns are heard and drums are heard in the community, you don't need an invitation. That was our cell phone. That was our cell phone. The drum was our cell phone. Bink, 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 bink. And the whole vibration in the community tells you there's something that is happening there. The community gathers together. The hierarchies and places, each one takes their place. The drummers are over there, the dancers are over there, the mothers are over there, the fathers are over there, and we all celebrate together in the rhythm of the drum. There is African spirituality right there, the dead wood of the past and the dead skin of the animal that has gone away. As they are put together and they are hit, there is a vibration in the hollow space of the drum. The community mixes its sweat and dust, and the ambience and vibration of the community is lifted. Noises and sounds are blocked away from our ears as we begin to migrate, all of us, towards a common goal of what gathers us together as a community. It is right there that everyone knows their place. Children know where they belong. Women know where they belong. Husbands know where they belong. And every one of us participate in this ritual of community symbiosis. This is what we lost. To eat together in one big pot, each one taking a piece. To drink together from one calabash, each one taking a sip. To call relatives together when we're getting married. What do you think, auntie? Auntie says what you think. What do you think, grandma? Grandma says what you think. What do you think, uncle? Uncle says, well, what do you think, nephew? What do you think, cousin? Should we give our sister to this family? Do we know them? Can we trust them? Oh, please wait a minute. Let's go do a further investigation. Then the family would send some people, go and look for their grandfather's graves. We can't give our child to another tribe when we don't know their father's graves. Why do you want to know the graves? Because if we don't know what killed them, it will kill her also. This for me was the center of knowledge, interaction, communication, and sharing. You're asking me what we lost? We lost everything. We lost everything. We remained as hollow pipes of coconuts, brown on the outside and white on the inside. Our software is no longer African. We're now white people in black skins, as Franz Fanon once said, black masks, we're just masks of black people. But then look at how we think and how we process our things. We've all become colonial. What did we lose? We lost everything. We lost our identity. What did we lose? We lost everything. We lost our spirituality. What did we lose? We lost everything. We lost our women. We lost our mothers. We lost our sisters. What do we have now? We have girlfriends. What do we have now? We have baby mamas. What do we have now? We have slay queens. What do we have now? We have pretty girls with round cheeks and round bums from China. What do we have now? We have powdered faces. We no longer have the strength of women. As they say in South Africa, imbokod. First imbokod. The strong stones where we could sharpen our spears on, and the stone itself never gets finished. That is the road. That's what they call a woman in South Africa, imbokod. That hard stone. You bring an axe and you wipe it on top of that thing, and you would finish up your axe, and the stone still remains here. That's the strength that we have lost in these artificial women that are now being born with long nails. They can't even wash their own panties, with long earrings. They can't even hear the voices of the ancestors. With round, beautiful faces, we wonder the quality of their hearts. What did we lose? We lost everything. They are now giving birth to things. I can't even call them children. They are giving birth to things that they don't know. Amazing. A woman in this generation who does not even know who the father of the child is. She does not know. The women we can now have, I call them the oops women. Oops. Oops what? I missed my period. Oops. Like children are a mistake of reproduction and recreation. What did we lose? We lost the timetable. We lost cosmology. We lost our mothers. We lost wisdom. We lost the connection. We have cell phones, but there's no signal. What did we lose? We lost everything. How do the women go back to finding themselves? How do the youth go back to finding themselves? How do the men go back to finding themselves? How do governments go back to finding themselves? How does culture go back to find itself? How does business go back to find itself? It's one big question of the migration of the mind. How and what do we do when we discover we've gone so far And yet what is most important, we left it so far behind. Having worked in the religious space prior, allow me to indulge you in a small little theological discourse. Mary, the mother of Jesus, and Joseph, they go to get counted in a city. The boy is 12 years old. And in the end of the ceremonies, they started off to go back home to Bethlehem. And they walked for 3 days. And the passage says, they thought that he was in their midst. They saw the kids playing, they thought he was there. They ate the food, they slept, they walked, they slept, they ate this. And on the 3rd day, Mary says, no man, I love the mother. My boy, I've not seen him. I can see other kids, but I'm not seeing my boy. Then she did an intentional investigation to look if the boy was amongst the rest of them. The story tells us he was not there. Now here is Mary and here is Joseph. The whole group of people they came with, their children can be accounted for. And they are going to continue their journey. I'm talking about Africans working together with other communities, the Indians, the Chinese, the white people, the Russians, Portuguese, the Italians. We've been working together. But as Africans, we need to ask ourselves, where is our child? Where is it? The painful part is that Mary and Joseph had to turn around and walk back for 3 days. Back to Bethlehem. They looked for him everywhere. They finally found him in the temple. I'm not interested in making you a Christian, but I want you to pick up the story in its mythical form. There are times in life when you go so far in one direction, and one day you reach a moment where you discover that either I continue without it, but if it is important, I might as well stop right here. Retrace my steps, every step which led me this way. I need to move back that way. Collect that which is important. Maybe the journey will be better with that which I love next to me. How do we go back? It's an embarrassing statement to tell the Africans, go back to indigenous food. Go back to original hairstyles. Go back to indigenous governance. Go back to indigenous entertainment. Go back to rites of passages for young girls and young boys. Go back and find yourself. Go back. Go back there. It's embarrassing because the other nations seem to be progressing. They seem to be moving into their civilization. They're not talking about AI. We're not talking about flying. Hey, but nothing funny about AI. We've been doing AI for the longest of time. My grandfather would go to a stone and speak to it and say to his son, who was 300-400 kilometers away from town, hey, it's high time you come back home, my son. Wherever the son was, he would hear him. By weekend, he'll be back home. I miss those AI days where grandmothers would be sitting under a tree and they see a young girl coming 1 kilometer away and they look at each other and say, that one is pregnant, with no tests whatsoever. They could just look. And they knew the time when our aunties would be sitting around the house and look around chickens fighting, and they can tell you, oops, some visitors are coming, please start preparing the pots, and etc. There's a time when my grandfather would be telling me, this year we're going to harvest, we're going to have lots of rain this year. It's going to be very cold. It's going to be what? So in terms of knowledge systems, the question is, how did they tap into the spiritual realm to get these downloads that afforded them help? So while the other nations seem like they're creating more gadgets, the Khoisan man is far much more advanced. I wrote a paper the other day entitled The 8th Industrial Revolution. And that industrial revolution is where, again, man is living in harmony with nature. And trees can talk to him. Herbs can talk to him. The wind can whisper to him. The clouds bring him a message. And life in its own essence is far much more technological without having gadgets and systems. Maybe this is the real AI they are looking for, where the human body is now fully charged to be able to communicate with the spiritual realm and function as normal. That's where our forefathers used to be. And that's not uncivilization. That is the highest form of civilization, where shamans, where magicians, where witches and witch doctors, paranormal things constantly happen. That is what we call chemistry, from Kemet, our ancient knowledge systems of the Egyptian empires and the building of the Great Zimbabwe and the rest of the African continent. So how do we go back there? Let's retrace our steps, one step at a time, and find exactly where did we lose it? Where did we lose it? And walk back there and pick up these things. That's why I use this funny name sometimes when people don't understand. When I say, I'm the watcher from the future, living with you in the present, with solutions from the past. There must be a deliberate walk to the past, to pick up the technology of the past and combine them with the ambitions of the future, and then make decisions in the present. This whole thing of heads of families and stuff, it's a new phenomenon which comes with religion. And because you cannot tell me that you are head of the family, yet you don't even know how many cups you have in the house. You don't even know how many curtains are in the house. It's a woman who knows. You don't even know what you're going to be eating for the day. And you call yourself the head of the house. It's a rather interesting theological conversation we can have another day. But my appeal to the young ladies, I would start off by saying, respect your culture. And for a young lady, I don't want to mix my words, sit down with your grandmothers and your aunties. The first thing you need to do, go and master your beads. Master your beads from an early age. Understand your time. Understand your cosmology. Own your sexuality. And you looking at understanding your beads, I've already given you solutions to many problems. I've given you your sexual health. I've given you your physical health. When you're getting fatter, you're getting thinner, your beads will tell you that you're getting more weight, young lady. Slim back. If you want to, mama, you can extend it, but it becomes your gauge around your waistline. And for these 4 weeks, with no swallowing of any contraception, I'm bleeding, I'm drying up, I'm good for sex, I'm now fertile, I'll get pregnant. So women only needed their men for 1 week in a month, technically speaking. Polygamy was not an issue at all, because women were sitting in control of their sexuality. They would decide when to invite a man, and they would decide when they did not want a man. So this whole ideologies of men being heads of families, it's a rather new phenomenon that we have to start dealing with. And the young ladies of our present day, without them suffocating themselves with too much theology, they may want to retrace their steps and reaffirm who they are as the genuine, legitimate custodians of life. And I wish more women could join in the battle against technology, because ultimately it is the woman's right of reproduction that science is tampering with in terms of test tube babies, which are now coming very fast to replace the womb, where we just want to harvest, we take it over there, it can grow without you. And women are slowly but surely being flushed out of the system. We will reach a time within the next 10, 15 years, if not earlier, where being pregnant will be a luxury, because machines can do that. When that day happens, maybe let's come back and have this conversation. What is the role of women? What is the function of women? It is some of these menial tasks that puts the family together, which we may undermine and undervalue. Like saying a woman must look after food section. No, inequality. A man can also cook. But he can cook. But does the man understand the diet? Does he have the knowledge of the balanced diet? The green foods, the red foods, the yellow foods, and etc. Would he know how to treat us through the plate? Or is just an educated chef from town who knows how to mix lasagna and cook some spaghetti, and that's all that is done? I mean, look at you right now giving me some
gingers to drink, and etc. Does the man have that sensitivity of healing in him so that when he's preparing the foods in seasons, and again, it's already on your waistline, remember? You have your summers, your autumns, your winters, and your springs. And knowing your cosmology helps you to understand your anatomy, helps you to understand your diet, and helps you understand even the way you're going to be functioning. Yes, equality, equal rights, cook today, I cook tomorrow. You can do that at the cosmetic section, but there are some roles which cannot be shared that easily. A mother can tell that my child now needs a diaper change. My child is now thirsty. My mother can tell, even if I'm 1,000 kilometers away, that I'm not okay. And she'll give me a call. Are you all right? I said, can a man do that? No. We'll check him when he arrives. That's my father. Don't worry. He's a grown-up boy. We'll see when he comes back. So that sensitivity for me can never be put in the group of equal rights. We don't feel the same. We don't breathe the same. We're not spiritually the same. If someone is struggling there, a mother feels it. Something cuts on their belly. A man can't. We don't even have that emotion. We don't feel it. So to ask for equality, I think it's rather cosmetic, because ultimately at the fundamental levels of human existence, women are much more human than men. Men are capable of going to war to kill each other for the life of me. I don't think women can do that. So we cannot be talking about equality and sharing of services and functions as if we have the same emotional attention. Ask a man to go and change a diaper, he will change a diaper. Ask a woman to go and change a diaper, she will notice the rash, she will notice the pimple, she will look for Vaseline, she will look for this, she will fix. And when you see them, both of them with changed diapers, you might think that they are the same. No, they're not the same. The mother has gone a step further to do other things. And these are the things that we cannot take for granted in the midst of us trying to look for this equality story. It's hopeless. It's a hopeless endeavor, trying to make men women and trying to make women men. It will never happen in 1,000 years. It is what it is because it is drafted like that in terms of our DNA. And anyone who tries to separate and split that into anything else will end up with pieces in their hands, because the culture has given us women as the greatest gift through which humanity is preserved. And I think they must be protected in that light.